So, good morning, members. A very warm welcome from Team Training and Education for today's 52nd webinar on this Gyan Ganga webinar series. Today's topic is Standard Fire and Special Peril Policy and Adjusted Perspective. And today's our faculty is our very own and popular sir, Mr. P.C. Shukla sir. Before that, I just wanted to update members that the day before yesterday, there is one surveyor brother from Nashik who is expired due to Corona. So I request all the members if you can help him financially because his age was hardly 36 and he was not a member of benevolent fund and all these things. So if you can help him financially, it will be the great help for his family. I will share the account detail of his family, so you can directly whatever amount you want, 100, 500,000 rupees, you can contribute to his family. So with this, I again once again I welcome to all the members. I request Shukla sir to start with today's session.
Good morning, friends. And the message you got, probably the topic shown in the flips was not, in fact, there was some gap, communication gap. This is basically standard fire special peril policy and adjuster perspective, in the sense that about 8 years back, I was sitting in a regional manager office and discussing some claim. He asked me, Mr. Shukla, there is a condition of misinterpretation. Kindly quote the can you quote this condition? So I told him which condition. So bole not aware of this condition. Humne sir, I am aware, but I don't know exactly which condition number is this. So he says that you surveyor doesn't go to the policy. But I told him that these are all legal documents, and we are all surveyors are so busy, and we are just like if you are going somewhere and your car is in the house for say 5-6 days and you have some dust on the screen, a huge dust on the screen, the surveyor even has no time to clean entire dust on the screen. He only cleans the screen, the windscreen glass up to the portion he has to go to the, I mean, just opposite to steering. Even the left side portion remain unclean because he is so busy. So we are working day in day out with the policies, and since most of us are engineers, so we are not well versed with the legal terms, with the legal jargons, and often we try to see the policy, but we get bored because of the legal jargon, and we are not able to assimilate our thinking with the policy. Ultimately, if you ask me, then why we need to hear a policy, why need to read a policy? I can tell you for many reasons you need to read a policy. Because many a time the client say to you, uh, take out the salvage, I am not interested, and pay my claim. I am throwing out, it has occupied my place, so just take it out. And why you are asking this document? Who will pay for this? Why should I spend on accounts, preparing account? So all these questions are being asked and put you in a lot of discomfort. Who should prove the loss has occurred due to the insured peril? Who should prove? So if you go to the policy, if you go to the small ticket policy, all your doubts are clear. In fact, the standard fire special peril policy empowers a surveyor. Because we are not aware of the terms and condition, we are not aware of the strength which is derived of the policy, we get fucked up by the clients many times. So today my effort will be to apprise you of the power which you derive being adjuster from the standard fire and special peril policy, or any other policy it does. So fire insurance, because I am planned to present a package of 6 points. So this is going to be the first package, and the package will be the history and basic principle of fire insurance, interpretation of policy condition, and exclusion of standard fire and special peril policy. Fire tariff provision and registered need to know. This is lecture 2, which will deliver whenever I get time from the organizers. Then 3, fire insurance underwriting and risk inspection, analyzing policy document for ascertaining scope of cover, concurrent and non-concurrent policy. Then 4, truly dedicated to add-on covers. 5th is dedicated to special clauses, warranties and endorsement, and doctrine of proximate clause. This is the last 6. So this is how I planned my package for the fire insurance for all of you. And this is package 1. Now in this package, sorry. Now, history of basic principle of fire insurance. The first point: why fire has become a prominent peril in insurance. This is I am going to discuss today. History of fire insurance in India. Fire insurance contract in India. Fundamental principle of fire insurance under common law. The policy. Preamble of the policy. Perils covered, general exclusion, general condition. So this is I am going to discuss with you today. This is the menu of today discussion. And perils I will not discuss much because I have already taken a lecture, or my first lecture was on the perils, specifically going to the each and every peril. But today I'll just take an overview of the perils. So the first point will be the why fire has become a prominent peril in insurance. Now, if you see, the discovery of fire was a milestone in the development of human life. By rubbing the pieces of a stone against, probably this is the first discovery of the human for the probably of the human who are Homo sapiens. So they discovered process of creating fire, and this discovery has changed the whole course of the life of the people. Let's see how it has changed the life and why fire has become such an important thing for all of us. It's a very famous book by, you all know, Harari, Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind. I mean, most of you have seen this book. It's a very, very popular book, and somebody who has not gone through book, I request you, all of you, to read this book. It's a wonderful book. Now, in this book, he evolves the development of human species, the Homo sapien. So he says, this is a food chain. Initially, the tiger used to eat man, man used to eat goat, and goat used to eat the fruits and vegetables. So this is the food chain. Initially, when the fire was not discovered, this was the food chain. And the human was having they have a big teeth, big mouth, and they used to eat raw meat because they do not know how to cook it, or how to, whether the fire was not discovered, and that was tough to digest. So they have a big stomach, a bigger intestine. So all of this led to a smaller brain. The brain human was not developed because he has a big body, big mouth, everything was big, but brain was smaller. Then once they have discovered fire, the entire food chain has changed. Now he can cook the meat. It is easier to digest once he is able to use fire to cook meat. It is easier to digest. his intestine become smaller and the brain become bigger, and that gives rise to the bigger brain, how the humankind is able to make development in the world. So the fire has a very great role to play in the development of the humankind. Now you see what has happened with the development of the fire when the fire has come. Innovation to the humanity. It create bigger capable brain. Now the brain create huge establishments. We are able to make houses, bridges, and that we are able to build. And there was a huge migration from rural to urban. So this is all development thereafter. But there was an hazard observed by human that whatever he has developed, it is exposed to mainly a peril called fire. So he has come back to the square A. He is able to develop brain able to develop infrastructure, but infrastructure is exposed to fire peril. So the circle is complete. So how this fire has become a prominent peril in human life, but in insurance it has become a prominent peril because of other reasons. And the reason was Great Fire of London demonstrated in 1666. There was a Great Fire of London. It's very prominent in the history of fire insurance. The real establishment of the fire insurance came only after the Great Fire of London in 1066. This fire lasted for 4 days and night, burning over 436 acres of ground and destroying over 13,000 buildings, was the most devastating fire in history and forcibly awakened the people of for the necessity for the protection against the such calamity. It started from a small bakery. It remained there for 3-4 days because people do not have an arrangement for the firefighting, and so it is actually 1066, not 166. So this has really given rise to human mind to think about this hazard, that human brain which has developed so much is also exposed to the peril called fire. In 1667, a leading entrepreneur, Nicholas Bourbon, he formed a business to repair houses damaged by fire. This is the first action after the Great Fire in London. In 1696, hand in hand, mutual fire company were formed and participated in friendly society in England to form a mutual insurance company to cover fire losses. Now, you are aware in 1688, Edward Lloyd Coffee House, the precursor of the Lloyds of London, became the central meeting place for ship owners seeking insurance for voyages. It traces origin the fire, which is the world oldest continuously operation insurance company. Lloyd has become the pioneer in creating a transit insurance. As you know, it was created in a coffee house. It has a great history. Then in 1710, Charles Povey formed the Sun, the oldest insurance company in existence, which still conduct business in its own name. It is the front runner of the Royal and Sun Alliance Group. So this has shown the development of the insurance after the Great Fire in London. Then we'll have to see how it has developed in our country, India, because we were in the British Raj in those days. In the early development of the insurance took place during the British Raj. Let's see how it has developed in India. First general insurance company, Triton Insurance Company, was established in Kolkata 1850. It was a British owned company. The first Indian general insurance company was established in 1907 in Mumbai. It was Indian Mercantile Insurance Company Limited. Till nationalization of insurance sector in 1972, the fire insurance cover provided to insuring public in India was in the lines of British market. All the terms and conditions were totally in the lines of British market. Though we got independence in 1949-50, but still we have continued the same structure, same thing. The major change has come in the insurance sector during the nationalization in 1972, where there were 107 private insurance companies operating. They were merged to form 4 PSUs: United India Insurance Company, Oriental Insurance Company, New India, and National. You know all that company. So it started in 1972. All the private insurance companies were merged to PSUs. The GIC was incorporated as a company in 1971. In 2002, insurance sector was open to private players, because in 1972 the private sector was nationalized, but in 2002 the whole circle is complete and we are back to privatization of insurance. But the issue is, as far as the fire insurance is concerned, there I want your attention. There is no statutory enactment governing fire insurance, unlike marine insurance in 1963. Now here I need your attention. Unlike Marine Insurance Act, fire insurance was developed without any statutory enactment governing fire insurance. Then how it has governed in India or all across the world, we'll have to see. Indian Insurance Act 1938, because that is the sole act dealing with the insurance subject. It dealt with the regulation of insurance business in India, right? So it does not govern the fire insurance. There is no separate enactment for the fire insurance. So the Insurance Act 1938, it only dealt with regulation. It only dealt with regulation of insurance business in India. Now, in the absence of any legislative enactment on the fire insurance, the courts in India, while dealing with claims, relied on judicial decision of court and option to English jurist and now court's ruling. So what I am trying to say with this, that the major part of the insurance, fire insurance, has two portions you will see in the further slide. A portion of the fire insurance is governed by the contract act in India, and another portion, which is the really indemnity portion, which is the operational portion, it is governed by the common law, not under any act. So why if in case of any dispute, in case of any legal dispute, when the insured goes to the court for remedy, it is easier for the court to provide him remedy, because there is no legislative enactment. They cannot operate within land. They are free to interpret the policy indemnity. They are free to interpret it. So number of judicial judgment have changed the course of. So I mean, there is no other interference of the judiciary in insurance as in fire insurance. In other parts of insurance, the intervention of judiciary is not as much as in the fire insurance. This is what we need to know, because of non-existence of any legislative enactment. Initially, fire insurance policies used to cover fire peril only. That was older. Only fire were available and other covers were provided as a, this is before 1972, after 1972. All other covers were added. They was covering basic fire cover. After Sikh riot in 1984, after the assassination of Mrs. Indira Gandhi, there was huge rioting and many policies. Riot was a different risk, was not covered because it was an optional risk. So most of the claim, many claim, more than 80% of the claim were not covered because people not aware of such a risk, and they got insured of the basic cover of fire. And as a result of it, and thereafter there are many catastrophic losses due to flood, storm, cyclone, change of incorporate. So this has given rise to the need of inclusion of uh, riot risk, flood, storm, cyclone, and many more in the policy wording as a policy order, right? They were included. In 2001, TAC came with the package policy, namely Standard Fire and Special Peril Policy, which is operating as on today. It was a package policy. This policy has changed the paradigm of fire insurance in India. It fulfilled the need of customer across the board. This is one of the best thing happened ever with uh, fire insurance, like something has happened with motor package policy. So these two policies have changed the paradigm of fire insurance. They are drafted with the present requirement of the customer, and they have providing a little package where all the general requirement of the customer are fulfilled, particularly customers who are not aware of the intricate of the policy conditions. So when there's a all risk kind of coverage is there, major perils are covered, so he has nothing to choose. It is already covered. In January 2007, as you know, the fire business was de-tariff. Before it was tariff business, the rates were fixed. And when it was de-tariff, the general consensus in the market was that now fire insurance business will be spoiled because we are acquainted, we are we live to believe in a tariff regime. We stayed in a tariff regime for a long time. As most of the surveyors are now afraid their survey fee schedule is being de-tariff, what will happen? And believe me, it is going to happen sometime from now. The rotation of work is also again to be not there, but shall be no rotation of the work. I tell you these two things in advance. Anybody who is doing de-dreaming that we are going to stay in the regime of de-tariffing, tariff survey fee schedule, boss, it is not going to happen alone. The soon you are going to see a de-tariff fire survey, depending on the quality of the survey, delivery time, your infrastructure, and the job assurance is also going to get away. It will purely depend on the standing of the and the performance of the survey. So when this fire insurance was de-tariff, the premium suddenly rose to 25% against all negative sentiments said about this. कि भैया ये चलेगा नहीं, this will all spoil, but the premium income has risen in de-tariff regime. Now, the de-tariff ultimately in a little long term after 2007, say after 2010, 2012, what we see in the market, it started showing negative and positive effect in long term. The premium rates are drastically discounted up to 90%, 99% at the cost of customer service. Because now this service is discount or the other service part is not provided, because if you are selling a policy with 99% discount to the customer, how you are going to provide him a service? You need it because you have already discounted for 99%. So these discounts were given at the cost of service, and the customer service suffers greatly because of this, because of our nature. Ultimately, this de-tariff in the long run has proved counterproductive as regarded the customer service. The fire portfolio for the first time attributing the under licenses. I mean, before never been the history of the insurance in India. Fire portfolio was always showing the profit as against motor portfolio. But for the first time after de-tariff, after few years after when the huge discounting had occurred, it is started showing underwriting losses. Now, IRDA has to take corrective measure ultimately by releasing burning rates for loss-making risks. So now, more or less, there are 75% risks are again now tariff. And anybody who is doing fire insurance survey, there is one funny thing has happened. Now, plastic goods manufacturing, initially you see the plastic goods manufacturing has initially two rates. One, for the raw material used having calorific value below 15,000 BTU per pound. And the second category was the raw material used having calorific value above BTU per pound. And I tell you from where this calorific value has come. Because before 2001, the hazard was only being rated by flashpoint. It means if the flashpoint is lower, it is more hazardous. If the flashpoint is higher, it is less hazardous. The petrol has a low flashpoint as compared to cotton. So the petrol storage will attract higher rate as compared to the cotton or anything else. Now, for the benefit of young surveyors, because most of the senior surveyor must be aware for what is this flashpoint. Let me tell you what we mean by this. Now, any compound, anything will burn only when the solid part will convert to the vapor, and the vapor catches fire and ignite. So you can see the example of a candle, a burning candle. When you light a candle, its upper portion convert into vapor and you see on burning, and the size of the candle getting slowly lower. So what I'm trying to say, the lower the flash point, the higher will be hazard, quite understandable. But in 1997, probably 1995, when the plastics have become very prominent in our product, I mean, plastic was discovered a later stage, initially not discovered when the flash point was the measure of hazard. But with the regular plastic coming in our daily life, now the plastic, you burn a plastic, it has a higher flash point. But when it starts burning, it creates so much heat because of its high calorific value, like tire tube. So what had happened in 1997, 1995, a fire broke out in a tire tube godown. And in fact, that godown was in Kanpur. It was Poddar tire. And there was a huge fire. I was surveying the claim. There were two insurance company involved. So I was from the national insurance company. And it remained burning because a lot of fire brigade came, that they tried to control the fire, but they are not able to because the heat was so high. So it took 2-3 days to really control the fire, and the extent of fire, entire building was collapsed, and so much heat was generated because it remained burning for days. So from that point, as the plastic goods and the polymer came into the life of the common man, the another measurement of the hazard become the calorific value, and that gave rise to the introduction of plastic goods manufacturing on two category of the calorific value, before 15,000 BTU per pound. It means that if you burned 1 pound of the raw material, it will create 1500 BTU, British temperature unit of the heat, calorific value. So that was the measure of the calorific value. So now there are two measurement of the fire. One is a measurement of the hazard. One is flash point and another is calorific value. Now from 2000 to 2000, say 17, 18, year 2020, when the first time this IRDA has uh, issued the burning rate, what they observed that the unit which are using raw material below 1500 BTU per pound, they are exposed to the claim ratio was very high as compared to units where the calorific value is high. So now if you see the present burning rate, the rate for plastic goods manufacturing unit using raw material below 1500 BTU per pound are higher as compared to units having higher, I mean higher risk, yeah, higher hazard is attracting less rate as compared to less hazard. This is how you see the market, how it has changed. So now hazard are no more the measure of premium rating. Now the claim ratio has become the ultimate. What is the incurred claim ratio for the particulars become the measure of the rate. So that's very interesting. Now it shows Indian market are not yet mature for de-tariffing. What clearly shows that अभी हम de-tariffing के लिए mature नहीं हुए. Now our situation is like that. Now see this guy, he is craving for a premium. He is in a temple, but I use this clip to show the status of a insurance person who is craving for the premium, at the same time worried about the incurred claim ratio. He's shaving his shoes, that something will not happen to my shoes. So here he is asking the God to raise the premium at the same time that somebody should not steal his shoes. He has put a leg on here, that is means incurred claim ratio. So this slide really shows the present status of the industry. Now fire insurance contract in India, I'll discuss about the Indian scenario about the fire insurance contract. This small table shows that what are the laws governing fire insurance. Now, any fire insurance policy is basically a contract, a legal contract, right? So like any other contract, there are certain conditions as provided in for Indian Contract Act 1872 are also applicable to an insurance contract, which also include fire insurance. Now, what is Indian Contract Act 1972? It's not opening. Yeah. Now, the Indian Contract Act 1872 prescribe the law relating to contract in India, including insurance contract. The act is based on basic principle of English common law. This is still prevailing and this is still applicable. And the basic premise of this act was based on the common law. So like any other contract, business contract, it is also applicable to the insurance contract. Now, these are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 elements which are part of the Indian contract, like any other contract. Offer and acceptance, consideration, capacity of parties to contract, common intention and legality. I will discuss each in our next slide. So these are the basically term provided which are needed for insurance, for any insurance business in India as per Indian contract. Now, apart from this, it is also governed by common law. Now, what is common law? The common law system is a system based on the recorded judicial precedents. It came to India with the invasion of British East India Company. These can be challenged in the court of law since have no legal statute. So there are two parts of a fire contract. One is governed by the Contract Act in India, and another is governed by the common law. Now, the common law are not statutes. They are not legal. They have no legal status. Why? They derive based on the recorded judicial precedent. Whatever has happened in the earlier cases, based on the common law is derived. And these can be challenged in the court of law. So what I'm trying to say, as compared to other insurances, any other contract, insurance contract is more exposed to intervention of court because of common law. In the common law, anything determined by common law, the court can challenge it, court can overrule it. Now, what is common law in contrast to the insurance? Utmost good faith, insurable interest, indemnity. Now, indemnity provides two sets: subrogation and contribution. These are the basic framework. These are the basic three things which provide assent for insurance. Because insurance is business, unlike any other business, is totally different. You will see in the next slide. Now, first I'll discuss about the provisions governed by the Indian Contract Act. Offer and acceptance. You offer, because here the buyer, yani insured, offer to the insurance company by way of a proposal form that kindly these are my risk feature, and while going through the proposal form, insurance company chooses to accept and at what premium he decides. So it is an offer from seller and acceptance from buyer, unlike any other contract where offer is from offer is from seller and acceptance is from buyer. In insurance, offer is from buyer and acceptance from insurance. If you go to buy a fridge, so it is being offered to you by the seller and you choose which fridge you want to pay. On the contrary, in any insurance business, it is the insured which goes to the insurance company with a proposal form. Okay, these are the feature of my risk. So the buyer goes to the insurance company and asks the insurance company, say these are the feature guide. Then the insurance company goes through and provide the policy with certain rate after going to the proposal. So this is offer and acceptance. Consideration is the premium, because any contract has some consideration. Now, as per the Indian contract, the both parties should have a legal capacity to enter into the contract, right? It means if law says anybody who is below 18 years of age cannot join any legal contract, so he has no capacity to join the legal contract, right? Now, from here also derive the condition of insurable interest we'll see in the common law. So the capacity of the parties to contract, and only two parties who can enter into the contract should have a capacity. Number 4 is common intention. Suppose I'm interested to buy, I offer my house for a burglary policy. So my intention to buy a burglary policy, and insurance company cannot provide me a fire policy, because both should have a common intention to provide the cover. to provide and accept the collateral. If I am interested in buying a burglary policy, the insurance company should also be interested in providing me a burglary policy. There should be a common intention. Now, legality of the fire insurance contract, that's a very, very important point. That's a very important. And I am going to a file linked with this, which change your basic concept about this, about the any insurance contract. See this. Now, the first thing, legality of take the possession of the salvage. It's not the surveyor job, right? It is not neither the surveyor job nor the job of the insurance company. So wherever the nuisance is created by the insured many times about the salvage, you can put up this point, this illegality of the contract. It is arbitrary in nature because the unequal values are exchanged. What is that? What does this mean? Like any other contract, sale and purchase, if we buy a fridge which original cost is 12,000, he will give it to me 14,000 with the profit of 2,000. So these are not unequal values. But insurance is a very typical contract where unequal values are exchanged, meaning thereby by paying premium of few hundred or few thousand rupees, you are ensuring a risk up to lakhs, up to crores. So the unequal values are exchanged in the insurance contract like any other contract. So this is the second feature of the legality of this contract. It is unilateral. The only party can impose condition warranties, whereas other party has no power to do so. This is a third very important point you should understand. When you go to the insurance company, sell them a policy. Now it is the insurance company which poses all conditions. When you present that this is my risk, this is my house, it's a two-story house, it is occupied like this and blah, blah, blah. Then you cannot put any condition. It is the insurance company can put condition, clauses and condition and warranties. That yes, I will insure a house, but with these condition and clauses. The insured cannot put any condition, right? So this is unilateral contract. It is a contract of adhesion. One party has a power to draft and modify the contract, whereas other party has no power to do so. It is a contract of adhesion, meaning thereby that only one party has a power to draft and modify a contract, whereas the other party has no power to do so, right? It is not a contract of speculation. Only the person having insurable interest, you cannot speculate. It is a clear cut that I have this property, this is exposed to this various risks, and I am getting insured. You cannot speculate that I will buy a house, then I will but insure it right now. I will buy a house in the middle of the year, but you insure it now. So you cannot speculate on it. Only the person having an insurable interest can take the policy and make claim. Fire insurance contract is not cumulative. Unlike commercial contract, it cannot be exchanged or sold. Now, what is trying to say? If you buy uh, a company sells fridge to wholesaler, now the same fridge is being sold to uh, dealer. Dealer. Now dealer says to the small shopkeeper. Now shopkeeper says to the customer. Now the same fridge exchanges hand, but insurance policy cannot be exchanged, cannot exchange hand, right? Except for in marine cases, because of the where the insurable interest, where the property, where the goods are in the movement, right? So unlike any other insurance, property insurance, particularly fire insurance, you cannot exchange it. It is unlike commercial contract. You cannot exchange or sell कि भैया ये policy ले लो, मैंने बेच दी है, ये ले लो और ये कर लो. You'll have to this. So this is with fire insurance. So these are the legality one should know as a surveyor. Then that will give you a strength whenever dealing with a claim. Absence of fraud. The contract should be without any fraud. There should be total absence of fraud. Contract become void or voidable if any of these are missing. Now, if in any contract, insurance contract, if any of one is missing, then entire contract become void, useless. Now, fundamental principle of fire insurance under common law. I've discussed about the common law, right? Now, what are the fundamental principles of the common law? These are the 4 things: utmost good faith, insurable interest, indemnity, and proximate cause. These are the 4 things, principles derived from the common law, not from any statute, not from any law approved by the parliament. These are the governed by the under common law. Now, have you heard under any of the contract, any of the other contracts, the word utmost good faith? This word is only used in fire insurance, in insurance. Similarly, insurable interest is also used in insurance. Similarly, indemnity word, indemnity means will pay. Generally, companies pay you a claim, but the word commonly used is indemnity. The company rarely use the word pay, but the commonly use that the company will indemnify the insured in the event of a loss. So what is the difference between indemnity and the compensation? Why we use the word indemnity? Why we use the word utmost good faith? Why we use the word insurable interest? And what is proximate cause? Because the perils are covered. You are insuring a risk against certain perils. So the policy says the claim is only payable if the loss is proximately caused by the insured peril. Right? Now, what this proximate cause means in an insurance contract, this is what we are going to discuss today. I will not much discuss about proximate cause, because for proximate cause we need a detailed lecture. It's really complicated, and there are a lot of confusion prevailing about proximate cause. Even sometime I got hot up with somebody put me a condition, boss, this has happened. Now, a surveyor asked me this question a day before yesterday. What he said, just I wanted to share with you about the proximate cause, and I want your answer in my next lecture, your opinion about this, that you can share with the organizers. I want to see who is going to reply this question. There was a premises, which is a risk, which has an underground tank of oil containing oil. Now, there was a pump which used to pump oil from underground tank to the overhead tank. The underground tank and the pump was on the floor, little above floor, and the overhead tank was at little height, say about 4 or 5 meters. Now, when the surveyor visited the site, he found water both in underground tank and the overhead tank. Now, the client has given an argument that what has happened due to flood, the starter of the pump submerged in water. As a result, there was a short circuiting and pump started on its own. And the oil, which is already being contaminated by the water in the underground tank, pumped to the overhead tank and also contaminated the oil in the above tank, right? So what will be the status of claim as regards to the underground tank and as regard to the overhead tank? That's the question. So just note it down, and I want to have your reply on this, and then we'll discuss proximate cause in other presentation, right? So they are implied condition. Now, in any policies, you have two kind of condition. One is express condition. Express condition are those conditions which are printed in the policy. Implied conditions are those conditions we are not printed in the policy, but they are implied. It means every contract, fire contract, should have these 4 ingredients under common law, right? They cannot be expressed, and they cannot be expressed also. If you try to write them in a condition, in a printed condition, you can't do it. You can't do it, right? Let's see how it works. Utmost good faith. Now, what is the relevance of this word utmost good faith? You have heard this word a lot, right? See, what is this? Very, very relevant. How does it relevant? In the insurance contract, the proposer or is deemed to have intimate knowledge of the subject matter, whereas the insurer is in the state of ignorance. Suppose I am going to insure my house to the insurance company, right? Who knows the risk better? It is the buyer or seller? It is this buyer who knows the risk better than the seller, unlike any other commodity. Suppose I am selling fridge, right? So I'll explain you about the what are the characteristics if I'm going to buy a fridge. If somebody is going to buy a fridge, so I'm able to tell him that this fridge has following features, because it is the seller who knows the various features or the intimate knowledge of the product. But in insurance, I know my factory better than insurance company. I know my house better than insurance company. I know my car better than the insurance company, right? So this distinction from other context has derived the word utmost good faith. Here, the insurance company granted this cover with the faith of the proposer, right? Whatever he says about, whatever he tells about the risk, the insurance company believe it, and that imposes a contractual duty on the insurer. Let's see how then this contrasts with the legal doctrine of caveat emptor. Let the buyer be aware. Here, let the seller be aware. Yani, the insurance company should be aware about the risk as compared to the buyer. If you're going to buy a fridge, you should be aware. But where you are going to buy an insurance company, the insurance company should be aware of you. क्या आप उसे क्या टिका के चले आओगे या पता ही नहीं है, So the common law has imposed an obligation on the proposer, that they insured, the duty of disclosure, right? He has to disclose all facts, right? Now, what are the insured obligation in context of a smooth good code? He has to disclose all material fact known or ought to be deemed to be known. Material fact is a word which is commonly used by insurance companies, even by the surveyor. Non-disclosure of material fact claim is nil. But what is this material fact is? I mean, many a time it is misused. Material fact has nothing to do with the integrity of a particular claim. It has to do with the risk insured. What is material fact? Now, the material fact is the description which affect the judgment of a prudent underwriter in deciding whether or accept the risk and at what premium, subject to what terms and conditions. Right? This is material fact. It has nothing to do with the claims. It has been vaguely used, material fact, because he had not disclosed the material fact. That's why this. It is related with the risk. Now, material facts are the facts which brought in the proposal form, and by seeing the proposal form, the insurance company can take a decision based on the information or the material fact provided the proposal form, whether to insure this risk, and if yes, then at what rates. Right? That's the message of that. When proposal form is used, then due to declaration clause in proposal form, common law of utmost good faith is converted into contractual duty of the utmost good faith for insured, right? Now, what is this declaration clause given in the proposal form? Many of you have seen the proposal form, but have you seen it carefully? Declaration clause, few of must have seen, but I'm sure many of you have not seen this. What is the declaration clause in the proposal form? At the end, if you see the proposal form, it is mentioned, I hereby declare that the statement made by me in this proposal form are true to the best of my knowledge and belief, and we hereby agreed that declaration shall form the basis of the contract between me and the insurance company. If any addition or alteration are carried out in the risk proposed after the submission of this proposal form, then same shall be conveyed to the insurance company immediately. These two words also found condition of alteration in the fire policy. If you see, there's a condition given, I will come to later. But in the proposal form, it should mention that whatever I am proposing right now, this is this. If I change the alteration of the risk, suppose I am converting a residence to a business establishment, I am changing the nature of the profession, I am adding one more floor as compared to initial one floor, then it is for the insurance. I have to inform to the insurance company. Based on the insurance company can decide whether they should continue insuring, and if insuring, then at what rate and by which policy. They can give you different policy, whatever. So this is being declared by the insured. So this declaration draw. So it become a contractual duty. Then third, insured obligation to act as if uninsured during the entire policy. This is also insured obligation. We normally use it, that he should always act in a manner and proportion as if he's not. Whatever it does with the risk, whatever it does in controlling the loss minimization effort in case of lower, he should always seem to act. ऐसा नहीं है कि वो बात करे कि I have acted. You as a surveyor, you should be justifying that whatever action are taken by insured during fire are in effort to minimize the loss or as if it is uninsured, right? Suppose I am insuring a risk and I got a call from the my labor during the night that a fire has broke out. I slept again. यार बीमा तो है, चलता रहेगा. It kept on burning. Then fire brigade was called in the morning, late morning, by the time major loss has occurred. If it is found, it is a loss of utmost good faith, because it has become his duty under common contractual duty to act as his non-insured, to make all effort to minimize the loss that we have discussed. Now, I have talked about the insured obligation. Now, what are the insurer obligation regarding utmost good faith? अभी इसके पहले जो बात कर रहे थे, it is about insured. Now, if the premises is inspected by insured official, they are deemed to be in possession of all material fact and cannot later penalize the insured for non-disclosure of misstatement. If material alteration in the risk is in the knowledge of insured, they should not issue or renew a policy. The insurer are bound to interpret the terms and conditions of the policy and settle the claim on the basis of fairness and equity. This is an obligation on the insured. The insurer can avoid the contract if they prove that all material facts are not disclosed by insured. Then the onus of proving lies on the insurance company that the material fact given at the time of insurance, which are affecting decision of the insurance company to insure the risk or not to insure the risk, and even insure the risk at what cost, if it is proved that they can evade the liability of the insurer. The duty of utmost good faith applies to both insurer and insured. Insurable interest. In any contract, the competence of the person to effect, this is one of the major part of the basic contract act also, and it is also a main part of the common law. The competence of the person to effect a contract of fire insurance determined by his legal capacity to enter into the contract and insurable interest in the subject matter. Who can insure and who is entitled to receive a claim, it is to be decided. It is for this we need a solid confirmation of insurable interest, that who can insure and who is entitled for settlement to receive the claim. This we need information. In simple terms, insurer interest means the legal right to insure. If I have a legal right to insure, only I can have a legal right to insure if I have an insurable interest in the property. Now, who can generally have an insurable interest in property? Sole owner or absolute owner, yani proprietorship or proprietorship concern. Now, day before yesterday, I got a call from a surveyor. I want to share with you. He is asking one question. I also want reply from this question. It is in contrast with the insurable interest. He said he carried out a survey of a factory where building is also damaged along with the plant machinery and other things. Now, building, plant machinery and the stock are covered. But when he has seen the books of the insured, when he's seen the gross block schedule, building is not in the books. It means what he has derived from that insured has no insurable interest because it is not in their books. The question is it true? The hint is he is the proprietor of the business, proprietor of that company as well as owner of the building. So he is the owner of the building, he is the proprietor of the same company, and the company has taken insurance where building is covered, building is not declared in the books, and no premium is not declared in the book in terms of depreciation. This. So can we insure pay the claim for building? That's the question number 2. I'll discuss next time. So coming back to the who can apprise insurer, sole or absolute owner, lesser or leases, trustee or execution of will or administrator where there is no will, trustee are received in bankruptcy, tenants responsible for upkeep of building under tenancy agreement, Baileys in the properties in their custody, mortgager and mortgagees to the extent mortgager for the full value and mortgagee to the extent of standing. Now I'll discuss each and every one, each by each. Sole absolute owner have insurance, no doubt about it. Lessor or leasee. It means that if I taken a property under lease, right, I can insure, and even the lessor can also insure who has given me on the lease. That depends on the contract. Who is responsible for making good for any loss occurred due to the peril under the policy? Lessor or leasee. So both have an insurable interest, but depend who can, who is make. If there is a contract, in the contract there is a clause which says in the event of any loss due to any of the peril covered under fire policy, it is the leasee is responsible, then he can take the policy. Now next is trustee or execution of wills or administrator where there is no will. Now trustee, who is the executor of the bill, who can take the policy, or where there is no bill, administrator is being appointed, he can also take the proper insurance. Now trustee or receiver in bankruptcy. Now in the bankruptcy, during the bankruptcy, if this party declared for the bankruptcy court, this is the code already there. Now in that case, transferee or receivers who are receiver in the bankruptcy, they can both insure. Now tenants responsible for upkeep of building under insurance. I mean, what I'm trying to say, if I own this property and you are tenant, anybody is tenant, then I can insure this property on my name, not tenant. The tenant can only insure the property if between the agreement between the tenant and the owner, if the agreement, there is one clause which suggests that the event of any loss or damage due to any peril covered under the fire policy, it is the tenant who is responsible to make good for the losses. So once this agreement, this particular clause has come in the agreement, the insurable interest shift to tenant and he can insure on the strength of this document. Now bailey in the property in their custody and control. This is a case of goods held in trust or commission. Now earlier, if you see before 2001, if I am not wrong, there is no provision of special coverage of goods held in trust. Goods held in trust were automatically covered because of the insurer liability, because if the goods are lying in my premises, and if during at the time of loss I am able to prove that these are the goods belonging to other, but I have a since they were lying in my premises, they do not belong to me, but I have a legal liability to make good these losses, then company will also pay these losses and he need not to declare these. But what has happened during time, in many a time, this open disclosure won't be misused by insured. When there is under insurance, suppose the risk है, तो what you are able to say that this particular goods lying, they belonging to other customer, not to me. So there was a to avoid under insurance clause, or to avoid the or to the goods where the they are not in their books, they're not being their books, but they were burned in fire. So what number two goods, the number two goods were lying in their shop and their shop burned in fire, and those goods also damaged. There is a these goods were not in my books, but they were being kept by somebody in my custody. So I am a bailey, please pay me the loss. And the bailey can produce a bill, can create a challan, whatever. So in order to avoid these nonsense, now after 2001, you have to declare, they are not specifically, they have to specifically declare that what the amount you set for sum insured toward goods held in trust or commission, and at the time of loss, the surveyor has to ensure that these goods are really belonging, they are either had some commission or not insured own goods, whatever, but he has to declare. So this is about the goods and interest or commission, and bailey in the property in the custody, and a control, etc. Now, mortgager for full value. Suppose I am a mortgager and a particular bank is a mortgagee. Now, I have a property worth 20 lakhs, and mortgager, the bank has providing me CC limit of 5 lakhs. Correct? So, in the event of loss, I will be paid for full value because I am owner and I have taken the policy. I am owner, I have taken the policy. But the mortgager, the mortgagee, yani the bank, will only pay or will only be paid in the event of a loss to the extent of mortgage and outstanding, whatever be the outstanding on the date, only to that extent. Okay. So these are the things. Insurable interest should exist at the inception of the policy and shall continue to exist in it. This is also very important. If during the policy, if I sell my property, then it will, for the balance policy period, I cannot claim. Even that person cannot claim, who has simply because the policy is still existing, but the goods are being legally transferred to other insured. So I have lost the insurable interest. Therefore, the company will not pay the claim. So insurable interest should continue during the duration of the policy period. Transfer, I'm sure. An insurance policy does not automatically transfer to the transferee in the case of sale or gift. अगर हम किसी को सेल करते हैं तो it will not automatically transfer. I have to inform insurance company. Except for transfer through, I have to inform to the insurance company that I am transferring the risk. Then insurance company can consider change the name of the insured and whatever decision they want to take, whether we want to continue because of the moral hazard of the person who buy. If they're not satisfied with the moral hazard of that person, they can say, no boss, I cannot continue and I'll discontinue the policy. Now, except for transfer through operation of law, for example, bankruptcy, or through will or through the death of insured during the policy period. Suppose I am the owner, right? And I have purchased a policy of my building, of my house, and I had a will where I executed the will in favor of my wife, and I died during the policy period. Then automatically my wife will insure insurable interest in the property. This is what I'm trying to say. A policy will be considered void or voidable if not endorsed in the name of transferee. If not, as I earlier said, it is to be endorsed in the name of jisko becha hai, you have to be endorsed. Indemnity. I initially discussed, that's very interesting, why we are using the word indemnity. Indemnity, meaning of indemnity. Now I am trying to show you a video, if I'm able to show you, to give a clear example what we mean by indemnity, why the word indemnity is used. It may take some time, but let's see, let's try.
It's almost as good as they come. But it certainly has gone a long way. Saurabh Ganguly. I've said it in the past that it doesn't look as if he's hitting the ball very hard.
The video is not sharing.
So well. Just a couple of chips down the wicket, right in the slot, and away it goes. It's interesting to watch how he kept his eye on the ball there and his head down all the way. That wasn't a slog, that was a calculated.
Have you able to see the video? Hello? Hello?
No, sir, it was not shared.
It was not, you're not able to see this?
Yes, sir, we can't see.
Okay. So there's some problem. In fact, I have shown you a video. Uh, I have shown you a video where Saurav Ganguly hit a six, and the ball went out of the field. It lost. Generally, then what happened? Then what happened? The umpire calls somebody from the pavilion. He comes with a box of ball. Then, based on the number of over the ball has being used, right, likely to be used, and the shape and size of the shining of the ball, the umpire took a decision to select one ball, correct, to match what he thinks would be the actual ball lost to the same condition, and give it to the bowler, right. Sometime if the ball has more shine than the ball which lost, then he sketches the ball on the ground. That sketching is called depreciation. So here two things. This is a classical example. Two things. One thing is that the ball may not be exactly the same, but the effort should be the maximum. You cannot provide the indemnity, you cannot provide the insurance insured put exactly in the same financial position he was just prior to loss. Exactly, you can't do it. You can make effort as far as possible, like that umpire is doing. He can try to doing effort as far as possible to match the ball, the same which are being used, right? So this is indemnity. This is why the word is not used market value. You show any of the policy. I challenge you, this word is being often used by the surveyor. I challenge you, not in one policy you have word market value. In every policy you have a word value, not market value, because of the word indemnity, because you cannot exactly provide the same ball. You can't. You can make best effort. So this is the classical example of meaning of indemnity. Now there is one condition in the fire policy which also manifests to the point which I have discussed. This condition arises when sometime insurance company decide to restate the property. Suppose my shop is burnt. The company will ask me estimate and everything, and based on their survey will assess the loss and pay me the value. Now sometime the contract, the fire insurance contract has a condition which empowers the insured to take the charge and restate the property, right? That is the condition there. If I'm not satisfied, if I'm not happy with the insured conduct, then I said, okay boss, मैं आप ही छोड़ो, I'll replace it with you, छोड़ो इसको, but with a condition. वो condition क्या जब पढ़ेगा, देखिएगा जो मैं बात कह रहा हूँ वही है, same thing. वो कहता है कि if the company this is the option to insure, this is one of the condition in the fire policy that I'm reading. If the company at its option restate or replace the property damaged or destroyed or any part thereof, instead of paying the amount of loss or damage or join with the company, in doing so, the company shall not be bound to restate exactly or completely, but only as circumstances permit, in the reasonable and sufficient manner. The same thing was said by the umpire. I cannot exactly replace the same ball. I'll try my best to restate you, but only circumstances permit, under the circumstances where the loss has occurred, under so circumstances, whatever is available best, reasonably and sufficient manner can be done, company only insured. This is one of the policy conditions in the fire policy. And in no case shall the company be bound to expend more in restatement than it would have cost to restate such property as if it was at the time of occurrence of such loss. Company cannot pay more than that company will fix its financial limit also, because sometime what will happen, you have something which is insured, right? Now it has a value, certain insured value, but at the time of loss this thing is not available in the market. This thing is not available in the market. Now something better has come, or it is missing, or it is being sold on the black. The boss available hai, but there's a premium on this. So company will not pay you for that premium. Company will not pay you for that. Company will for its value. अगर वो चीज available है, if the company set an option, the company will not pay you for more. So this is general condition number 9, which I want to for your this. The insured can recover the loss only to the extent of his insurable interest. Whatever insurable interest he has, that he can recover. He cannot recover more than the insurable interest. Now there's a measure of indemnity, cost of repairing or reinstating to the pre-loss condition, market value, machinery. These are the measure of indemnity. Then stock. For retailer, it would mean the procurement cost. For wholesaler, it would mean the purchase cost from manufacturer. For manufacturer, it would mean the actual cost. You see, here from this to that, for the same item, the indemnity is different for different person, because different person have insurable interest. Suppose a product being manufactured lying in the manufacturer warehouse, right? Then it burned. So the insured is manufactured. The company will pay for the same product, say rupees 20. Suppose it's toothpaste. A toothpaste is costing rupees 20, with burned in manufacturer shop, will pay him 20 rupees to the bus. But if its MRP is 30 rupees and the manufacturer sold to the wholesaler in 25 rupees, then the wholesaler will be, if the loss occurs, the wholesaler will be, then he will be only paid 25 rupees, not 30 rupees. Now, if retailer, the wholesaler sell it to the retailer for 28 rupees with a margin of 2 rupees when it sells to the customer for 30 rupees MRP, and if a fire broke out at the retailer shop, he will get 28 rupees, not 30 rupees. So for the same item, the indemnity is different. It's different for different hang, and changes hand, changes insurable interest, the indemnity also changes. So all these things have very in close relation. Manufacturer, wholesaler, retailer. So that's the point I wanted to make. So indemnity is subject to the terms condition of the policy. Now method of indemnity: by cash, option to reinstate general condition 9, which I have already discussed. The same, again, the same condition, the same thing will come. Modification of indemnity. Now the principle of indemnity is modified by restatement value policy. This is the one instance where the insurance company has taken a shift from the basic principle of indemnity. It is something new for old. If I am insuring a property on new value and opting for a restatement value policy or restatement value clause, then in the event of loss, if I restate it physically, then company will pay me good. So this is a modification of indemnity. This is a point where for the in the insurance industry, any insurance regime, there is a shift of indemnity, and this was discovered probably in World War II, when there was a huge destruction and huge inflation, as a result of which people are not able to replace their assets because of huge inflation. Then this was modified to help for future, that if anybody has facing a problem, by suggesting a new value for the insurance, he can insure it for with this clause, and in the event of loss, even for the old property, company will pay you for the new, with 3 conditions. You have to reinstate, and reinstate within 1 year from the policy, and you have to incur the amount, be not of the same capacity, of the same feature, if you are registered with the improved feature, the company will discount for the improved feature. That's very normal. You all know that. Proximate I'll discuss in any other next lecture. Now it's already 1.5 hours, so I will not touch today this policy. I will just touch a small point. I'll take 10 minutes for that. I will not touch peril, general exclusion and condition. I'll just say policy and preamble, and then I'll close the speech. Then for the next lecture, when I get an opportunity, I'll discuss. Now, a policy has a preamble initially in document. Peril covered. There are 12 peril covered in the fire policy. There are 13 exclusion and there are 15 general exclusion. Preamble of the policy. What is the preamble of the policy? You see, this is like this. In consideration of the insured name in the schedule hereunder, company का नाम होगा hereunder the full promise, the company the full premium mentioned in the schedule, the company agrees subject to condition exclusion contained herein endorsed, that is after payment of the premium, such property destroyed or damaged by any of the peril specified hereunder during the period named in the such schedule and subsequent period of respect of which insured shall have paid company accepted the premium required. The company shall pay the insured the value of the property at the time of happening and its destruction or the amount of such damage or the option to restate or replace the property. Now this preamble has two parts. This is called recital part, where we make a background of this contract. This is the delivery part. This is the operative part. ये background है contract का और ये हम करेंगे इस contract. This something like that. That's why it is called recital clause, where the history is told that for such and such premium, company indemnifies such and such. And operative clause says the company shall pay to the insured the value of the property at the time of happening of its destruction or the amount of such damage or at its option restate or replace the property or any part thereof. Now here the company will pay the value. He does not say market value. He does not say actual value. Now I challenge you, you take any policy and in PDF, you search for market value, you will not find this word. You will not find this word. You will find the word value. You will find the word actual value, that will engineering policy. But I don't think you will find the word market value anywhere. So why this term value is used? Indemnity in terms of indemnity. What does it mean? Why does not say specifically market value if as a surveyor I think market value is the actual indemnity in each and every case? We always talk about the market value. आपका market value इतने का नहीं है, आपका market value इतने का नहीं देंगे, market value ना देंगे. Because it is different. I can cite example, many times I cited example. This is my shirt, right? This was given to my son from the first salary he got from the insurance company about 8 years back, which I am wearing, right? Now what will be its market value? What will we see? It's an 8-year-old shirt today which I am wearing. It's the first gift from my son, from the first salary he got. If I insured this shirt, right, what market value will be? It's going to be value. So it has two values, one sentimental value and another the material value, right? Now for sentimental value, the policy does not say they will not attach any sentimental value, but the value will pay. Okay. For the material value, right? This old shirt today I am wearing, fresh, good. You cannot say it's a 8-year-old shirt. Yes, you're seeing it's very well maintained, courtesy my wife. But it's 8-year-old. So it has value. It has value to me. Not in terms my son has given. Forget about that. In terms of its quality, I can still wear it for 1 or 2 years more, right? In your terms, new value of this shirt, less 75% depreciation or 80% depreciation, Shukla ji, ye milega. But if I am properly maintaining it, it's a greater value to me. In my opinion, it is 50% value to me. I have used 8 years, I can use for 4 years or something like that. Then, so that's why the word value is used, because value is a very subjective. What is our goal? What value we are going to achieve? Let's see into this. Meaning of value in fire insurance. The real intrinsic value excluding any sentimental value, that's true, which I have discussed. Prospective profit or other consequential indirect losses are excluded, that's true. The value at the time and place of loss, that's true. The value should be considered, while ascertaining the value of the same thing, we should consider where is the insured living and where is the fire broke out. Same thing has a value, different value in Kanpur and different value in Jodhpur, right? If something manufactured in Kanpur, it will have a higher value than Jodhpur. So the place and time, a value, time and place in which season loss has occurred. Suppose something has occurred in season, it is easily available, then value will be little less. Something is damaged during non-season, when the value a little higher, the value will be more. So time and place of loss is very important. This is to be considered always by the surveyor. So value of loss is what? Purchase value, market value, replacement value, whatever. But the goal should always be value to insure. Whatever method we use, this method, that method, this method, whatever. But our goal will be what is value to PC Shukla. What is value, if I'm insuring the shirt, what is value of this shirt to PC Shukla? That should be our goal, correct? So this is a top value which I have discussed. For the young surveyor, it's very important that you don't take this lesson from old surveyor like me, because they will misguide you always. They'll always talk in market value. This is what we have been telling. My senior told me market value, market value, market value. But that's not correct. Market value is one of the major parameter of ascertaining value at risk, but not always, because this shirt is made for me, not for market, right? So that's the consideration. Your goal should be value to insure. So this is all for today. Thank you very much. I'll not able to cover because it is already 1.5 hours, and we'll take some other time where I'll discuss general exclusion and general condition in the fire policies, which are very important. What strength you have got, what general condition you have, right, sir? So this is all. Thank you, everybody. Now you can intervene.
You very much, sir. Thank you, Shukla sir. There are few questions, but I don't think we'll be able to take it, because we will be continuing with this series for next, I believe, six lecture, right, sir?
Yeah.
So after this lecture, we will have this 2 session on question and answer, separate session on question and answer. Meanwhile, you can write this whatever the question you are having on training@isla.net. So we will able to consolidate all the question and answer in last 2 sessions. This is the basic things we are taking. So what I suggest to all the members is that whatever the fundamental differences of opinion with this session, you have to write us, and we will definitely come back to you on last 2 sessions. Otherwise, it will be very difficult to take a question and answer for each and every session. Right, sir?
Yeah. So I think they should share with me whatever question
Correct.
you share with me. And this has not been done. I am telling the organizers again for this, because many times question are either not shared. Because what I am trying to say, you share this question with me, I'll come with a presentation separate for that. I'll take 5-10 minutes to explain them clearly, so that everybody should understand the query.
Correct,
Right?
correct.
So this is
So
my suggestion.
question, you have to write in subject fire policy faculty by Shukla sir, or you have to mention that basically Shukla sir, so that we will come to know that this question is for the Shukla sir, so we can pass it on to the Shukla sir and take the answer and consolidated sheet we can share with all the participants.
Aja, what is the impression of the participant today for this lecture? Because this is a very basic of the fire insurance I touched. For senior must be getting bored about this. I don't know. They must be aware of it.
So we have one or two this thing we can ask them direct feedback. Mr. Ashim
Okay.
Srivastava, you can speak. Mr. David Makwan, you can also speak, unmute and speak.
Yes, sir. Asim Shrivastava from Lucknow, sir.
Yes, Ashim,
Hello.
how are you?
Fine, sir. Fine.
Yes,
Record
yes,
from
yes.
Karan. Just record.
Thank you.
एक क्वेश्चन था छोटा सा इंश्योरेबल इंटरेस्ट पे
जी
इंश्योरेबल इंटरेस्ट पे सपोज कीजिए आई एम ए टेनेंट आई हैव ए फैक्ट्री एंड द बिल्डिंग बिलोंग्स टू लैंडलॉर्ड बिल्डिंग इज नॉट इन माय बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट फाइन बट इन द पॉलिसी आई हैव ऑप्टेड फॉर द बिल्डिंग इंश्योरेंस do I need to mention but there is no classification of building that it is on rental basis or it is that it is on a rent, but the agreement is there. Agreement is saying whatever damage will be there, that will be repaired by the tenant. Do we need to mention in the policy itself to cover the
no,
nothing?
No,
You have to have
need
an
not to
agreement.
mention. Yeah, you need not to mention that it is a building on rent or it is a owned building, because it does not affect the any change in the risk parameter, right?
Sure,
Whether
sure,
I own a
sure.
building or should, what affect is the insurable interest. So this is a classical example where we are taking a decision which does not affect the it is not a parameter which is needed by the insurance company to take a decision whether to insure it or not.
Okay.
Not. And
So we have to have an
age.
agreement. Agreement will work, no issue.
Agreement is a fact. Yes.
Agreement. It should be registered agreement or non-registered agreement. There is no.
It should be on a stamp paper. It should be on a stamp paper. Yeah.
Notarized one, you can say. Notarized one, you can say. Yeah.
Asimji, whatever your question, you have to write us. Okay, this is only feedback. For feedback, we are unmuting the participant. So give us the feedback so that we can come up with this better version. Mr. Shashi Bhushan sir, Mr. David Makwan, if you can unmute yourself and give the feedback only, not asking any queries, because
I'm Shashi Bhushan.
Yes, sir. Shashi.
Hello. How are you? Shashi.
Namaste, Baba. Guruji, how are you?
Fine. आप कैसे हो तो?
Your presentation is बहुत अच्छे हैं, आशीर्वाद है आपका, ब्लेसिंग है। मैं आपका प्रेजेंटेशन से इंस्पायर्ड हूँ और यंग जनरेशन को भी अच्छा लगेगा और वेरी नाइस प्रेजेंटेशन एंड वी आर वेटिंग फॉर योर सेकंड। मेरा सिर्फ एक ही इंटरेस्ट रहेगा कि आपने जो प्रोनाउंस किया है कि फीस शेड्यूल भी डी टैरिफ होने जा रहा है, इस तरह के अनाउंसमेंट से दादा आप बचिए।
डी टैरिफ होने जा रहा है मतलब?
आपने कहा कि फी शेड्यूल ऑफ इन केस ऑफ फायर सर्वे इज आल्सो गोइंग टू बी डी टैरिफ्ड, मतलब उनका कोई शेड्यूल नहीं होगा, ऐसा आपने कहा ना?
ऐसा फ्यूचर में मैं एग्जाम करता हूँ
अब मैं आपका शुभचिंतक हूँ, इस तरह के फोरकास्टिंग से आप बचिए, उससे मोनोग्राम अलग लग जाता है। वैसे मैं तो आपका भक्त हूँ। प्लीज ऑन दिस फोरम बिकॉज ये लार्ज नंबर ऑफ टूरिज्म पैदा करेगा।
अच्छा शशि भूषण जी, शशि भूषण जी एक बात मैं कहना चाहता हूं। नमस्कार।
David Makwan here from Visakhapatnam.
Yes, Makwan, how are you?
I'm very fine, sir. How are you? Now मैंने लिखा है कि प्रपोजल फॉर्म कभी भी दिखता नहीं है सर। मैंने स्टार्ट किया इंश्योरेंस सर्वे टू सर्विस एग्जाम देने के बाद
जी
प्रपोजल फॉर्म नहीं देखा हुआ है।
जी। हेलो।
I think we lost the control with both the
Hello?
parties.
हाँ बोलिए बोलिए बोलिए
Sachin sir, I think we have started the question answer session instead
हाँ,
of
no.
taking the opinion.
हाँ,
So
हाँ,
We will stop over here.
Good here.
Members are requested to give their feedback. Okay. We
Yeah.
we require your
members,
feedback
please
so
give
that
your
we can
feedback.
the
Don't ask any
work.
questions, please,
नहीं
sir.
मैं थोड़ा वो शशि भूषण जी को एक बात
your opinion on this
हाँ,
webinar only.
शशि भूषण के लिए एक बात मैं कहना चाहता हूँ। उन्होंने एक बात ये कही कि आपको ऐसा है कि मैं कोई इलेक्शन तो लड़ने जा नहीं रहा हूँ, नंबर 1। नंबर 2 मैं ये कहना चाहता हूँ उनसे कि एक दुष्यंत कुमार की एक छोटी सी नज्म में दो लाइन की सुनाना चाहता हूँ अपने को लेके कि एक बूढ़ा घर में है या इसको यूं कहो, एक बूढ़ा घर में है या इसको यूं कहो, एक अंधेरी कोठरी में एक रोशनदान है। तो मैं तो एक रोशनदान की तरह काम कर रहा हूँ, आपको जगा रहा हूँ, क्योंकि मुझे कोई इलेक्शन नहीं लड़ना है उसमें।
Great, sir.
तो भी I remember, I think it should not happen. I hope it will not happen. मैं उनके सेंटिमेंट्स की कदर करता हूँ शशि भूषण जी के, और मैं कोशिश करूंगा कि ये बात आगे ना हो, बट इसका प्रेडिक्शन ये है कि मैं कोई इलेक्शन नहीं लड़ने जा रहा हूँ। दिस इज व्हाट आई एम सेइंग। या चलिए,
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
ओके
Last question from Mr. Srikanth Bangad.
या
Mr. Bangad.
शुक्ला जी नमस्कार। यस यस यस
नमस्कार
audible?
बागर जी, how are you? हाँ, ऑडिबल,
यस यस
परफेक्टली।
फाइन सर, फाइन फाइन, बहुत अच्छे हैं। आपका प्रेजेंटेशन बहुत ही खूबसूरत रहा।
थैंक यू सर, थैंक यू, थैंक यू।
यस, बहुत अच्छी तरह से आपने समझाने की बहुत ज्यादा कोशिश की, होप सभी समझ ले। और
मेरी कोशिश ये रहती है कि जो लास्ट मैन ऑन द बेंच है ना,
जी सर,
उसको भी क्लैरिटी आ जाए। मेरी कोशिश ये रहती है, आई एम एमिंग द लास्ट मैन ऑन द बेंच, जो
सही
सबसे
सही
पीछे।
बात है, सही
Yes,
बात
sir. हमारा वेबिनार कंडक्ट करने का भी जो गोल स्टेटमेंट है वही है कि मेरे 9000 प्लस जितने सर्वेयर्स ब्रदर है, इसला के मेंबर्स है, उनके पास ये मेरे नॉलेज पहुंचना चाहिए। दैट इज व्हाट द विजन स्टेटमेंट वी आर हैविंग फॉर दिस वेबिनार। एंड
Yes.
शुक्ला जी का जो गोल है वो भी सेम अलाइन होता है। यस,
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल,
जी,
एवरीबॉडी आप
Yes,
जो
yes.
आप लोगों का
थैंक यू सर, थैंक यू वेरी मच।
कुछ लोगों का रिवीजन हो गया होगा, कुछ लोगों के लिए इंफॉर्मेशन होगी।
जी जी,
Okay.
वेरी सही,
करेक्ट।
वेरी ट्रू, वेरी
सो
ट्रू।
थैंक यू,
यस, होप।
थैंक यू पार्टिसिपेंट।
और
Thank you,
अगले,
शुक्ला सर।
हेलो शुक्ला सर, एक रिक्वेस्ट है,
जी, जी,
अगले
जी,
अगले बार और कुछ ज्यादा डिस्क्रिप्टिव अगर रहेगा तो सेशन
जी।
में और मजा आएगा।
अच्छा, ठीक है, ठीक है सर, ठीक है। थैंक यू, आई
Okay.
टेक योर सजेशन। बिल्कुल, ओके।
Bye everybody.
Thank you all.
Have a nice Sunday.
See you on tomorrow. Sorry, tomorrow next webinar.
Right.